There is a yarn that is warmer than cashmere, softer than most wools in the world, and completely unique to one country in the world. That country is New Zealand, and almost nobody in the knitting world is talking about that special fiber. It's called possum merino, and it exists because one of the most unusual stories in the history of fiber arts. But possum merino is just one layer of New Zealand's fiber arts story. Today we're going to explore it all. The wool industry that built a nation, an ancient Māori textile tradition that shares its DNA with the colorwork you might already be knitting, the contemporary designers putting New Zealand firmly on the global map, and of course we will also be talking more about the unique possum yarn. Let's get started. A wool nation. To understand New Zealand's knitting culture, you first have to understand its relationship with sheep. When Captain Cook arrived in 1773, he brought 2 merino sheep with him. Unfortunately, they didn't survive long, but the settlers who came after him had more luck and more persistence probably, and they grew the sheep population to one of the backbones of the agriculture in New Zealand. So by the 1850s, sheep farming had become the primary agricultural industry, and it remained that way for the next 130 years. And by 1982, there were 70 million sheep living in New Zealand. That's roughly 17 sheep for every single person in the country. Today that number has dropped to around 25 million, but that still means there are more than 5 sheep for every New Zealander, and the country remains the 3rd largest wool producer in the world. And it's not just one kind of wool. The North Island is dominated by Romney sheep, producing the long coarse fibers that go into carpets worldwide. But if you head to the South Island's high country, to the dramatic alpine terrain of Canterbury and Otago, you find merino, fine, soft, and perfect for all kinds of knitwear. The original textile tradition. But New Zealand's textile story didn't begin with European settlers and their sheep. It began much earlier with the Māori, the indigenous people of Aotearoa, and their weaving tradition, which is unlike anything else in the world really. Māori weavers developed a finger weaving technique called taniko that produces the most intricate geometric patterns like diamonds, zigzags, and chevrons. Now, if you are a colorwork knitter, these shapes might sound familiar to you, and this is due to the fact that these same patterns appear in different knitting cultures or textile cultures all throughout the world. And what makes taniko so unique is that it was developed entirely by Māori. It exists nowhere else in Polynesia, and it was originally done to decorate the borders of precious garments, like cloaks that were worn by people of high status and made to last for generations. After European contact, something beautiful happened. Māori weavers began incorporating the new fibers that arrived at their shores, like cotton, wool, and silk, into their taniko tradition, which was originally done with flax fibers. So there were really 2 cultures coming together, meeting and enriching each other. And there's one more story from this era that I love. Māori women working in shearing sheds were rolling freshly shorn wool on their thighs and then knitting up the created yarn with fencing wire. And this is a tradition called urua hipi. And I think this is such a beautiful way of seeing how fiber arts and knitting in this case are just incorporated into everyday life. Now in 1967, this tradition was renamed Kiwi Craft. Contemporary designers. Let's start with someone who embodies what New Zealand knitting truly feels like from the inside. And I would like to talk about Libby Johnson, who is also known as Truly Myrtle. Libby lives in rural New Zealand together with her family, a dog, and a wonderful collection of farm animals. She knits every day. She likes to wear something handmade almost every single day. And her design philosophy is that she wants to create patterns that become wardrobe staples, something you really want to put on day after day. Her patterns are known for being clear, encouraging, and genuinely fun to knit. And she also has a YouTube channel where she posts weekly live podcasts. There is a warmth and consistency to everything she does that feels very New Zealand to me. Unhurried, grounded, and completely genuine. And the first pattern of Libby that I want to show you is called Wayfarer. This is a cabled DK sweater that's worked from the top down with satin sleeves and beautiful twisted ribbing throughout. You can knit it cropped or longer with short or long sleeves, so there are really 4 versions of the sweater available within one pattern, which is wonderful value. The satin sleeves are worked using short rows, which gives them that perfect fit without any of the fiddliness of the traditional satin sleeve construction. Libby used her own yarn to knit this sweater, which is called the Truly Myrtle Southlander DK, and it's a 100% New Zealand wool. The pattern comes with both charts and written instructions, and she states that it is suitable for adventurous beginners and upwards. And I think the pattern name already says it all. This is a sweater for wandering. Now, the next design that I would like to show you is called Alex, and I think this is a pattern that looks a bit like a very stylish hug. It's roomy and semi-boxy with a clever faux plunging V-neck that gives you the look of a deep neckline without actually having to worry about what to wear underneath. The sleeves are full and long with semi-full cuffs that gather them in beautifully at the wrist. And what I love about Alex is that Libby has built in proper tailored shaping. So even though the fit is relaxed and generous, it doesn't swamp you. So I think this is a pattern you cast on when you want to knit something enjoyable, but also create a garment that you want to reach for again and again, like a true wardrobe staple. And the third pattern of Libby that I would like to show you is called Floozy, which is for sure an interesting name for a knitting pattern. This is a top-down cardigan with the most stunning colorful yoke, and here's what makes it so clever. The entire yoke is worked in slipped stitches, just one color per row. So you get this gorgeous, bold colorwork effect without the complexity of stranded knitting. So no carrying yarn across the back and no managing 2 colors at once, just simple slipped stitches that create something that looks very impressive. It's worked from the top down, so you can try it on as you go and adjust the length to suit you. It comes with a wide range of sizes and different options for the body and also the sleeve lengths, so this truly makes it a pattern to fit many different body types, I think. Now, if you enjoy Libby's design aesthetic as much as I do, I am very happy to announce that Libby is very generously giving away one of her knitting patterns to one of you. So if you would like to enter the giveaway, all you have to do is leave a comment down below, letting me know which of Libby's knitting patterns you would like to make. And I'm going to draw the winner exactly 1 week from now and announce it in a community post here on YouTube. Please also include your Ravelry username so that Libby can gift you the pattern. Good luck, and thank you so much to Libby for making this amazing giveaway possible. Next up we have Katrina Robinson, also known as Purl Foundry, and she is based in Nelson on the South Island. Now, Katrina came to knitting through the sewing world, where she spent years writing patterns, tutorials, and helping designers bring their vision to life. That background shows in everything she does. Her patterns are known for being very clear. Everyone comes with video tutorials, and the finished garments have a polished, almost shopboard look to them. She describes her goal as designing clothes that make people ask, "Where did you buy that?" And looking at her patterns, I think she achieved that. The first pattern of hers that I would like to show you is called the Holy Moly Sweater. This is a cropped oversized pullover in worsted weight with all over eyelets, voluminous sleeves and balloon cuffs. And just looking at it, it has this wonderful contradiction going on. The yarn is thick and squishy, but the all over eyelets give it a delicacy and lightness that stops it from feeling too heavy, I think. Construction-wise, it's worked flat from the shoulders down to the underarms and then in the round for the rest of the body, with the sleeves and neckline both picked up and knit in the round. The cropped length means it works beautifully over high-waisted trousers or a midi skirt, and that balloon cuffs gives it a real sense of occasion. But what I love most about this pattern is the story behind it. Katrina designed it in 2021 during the COVID lockdown, and she deliberately wanted to create something very comforting. So she chose a very cozy, squishy yarn. She came up with this eyelet design to counteract the harshness of the world at that time, and she created these very big balloon sleeves as an act of indulgence. And she writes in the pattern notes that she hopes that when you knit and then wear this piece, that it feels the same for you as well. The next design of hers that I would like to show you is called Cable Bay Sweater, and this literally has New Zealand written all over it. It is named after a New Zealand inlet where steep hills encase a calm bay, and the design echoes that landscape perfectly. You have those wide, bold cables that are balanced against a delicate eyelet stitch, drop shoulders, balloon sleeves, and a relaxed fit. It's worked in DK weight and starting flat from the neckline down to the underarms, and then it's joined in the round. And Katrina suggests trying it with a 4-ply merino, which is a fingering weight yarn held together with a lace weight mohair, which gives it a beautiful halo. The cables are wide, but the eyelet sections around them keep the whole thing feeling light and elegant rather than too heavy. This is the kind of pattern where the landscape that inspired the design truly comes alive in the finished object, and that is something that I personally always find very beautiful. The next pattern of Katrina that I would like to show you is called the Gather Sleeve Cardi. This is a 4-ply or fingering weight seamless cardigan with the most beautiful gathered sleeve details. It's worked top down, beginning with the back neck ribbing, which is then picked up to create the back panel. It features drop shoulders, balloon sleeves that gather into the cuffs, and a relaxed fit all throughout. The contrast between the simplicity of the body and the drama of those gathered sleeves is really striking in my opinion. Now, of course, a 4-ply or fingering weight garment takes a bit longer to knit, but I think the end result is so worth it. You get a very airy and light piece that can be worn in a number of seasons, I can imagine. It is very simple, yet textured, and I think it has that very striking, almost a bit dramatic gather detail at the sleeves. Now, the next designer I would like to talk about is Elizabeth Niho Niho, and I have been really looking forward to talking about her because there's just such a unique story behind her designs. Just know that I will have to read a couple of the names from my laptop because they are a bit more complicated for me to pronounce, and please know I am, as always, trying to do my very best in pronouncing everything correctly, but yeah, it can be a bit tricky sometimes with this knitting around the world videos. So, Elizabeth is from the South Island, which is called Te Wai Paunamu, and she works together with her husband on her knitting patterns, and he is of both Gaitahu and Ngati Paro descent, and together they have created something very unique and beautiful in the knitting world. The name Amikihia means stories told in detail, and this is exactly what Elizabeth does with her knitting patterns. Every pattern is named in Te Reo Māori, and every pattern draws inspiration from the landscape, the seasons, and the culture of Aotearoa. Her cables represent rivers flowing between mountains. Her lace represents gardens and frost and the first light of morning. She has said that traditionally Māori told their stories through weaving and carving, and that knitting is her expression of that same storytelling tradition. If you remember what I said earlier about the Taniko weaving, so the unique weaving tradition that was developed by the Māori, I think Elizabeth's work is a continuation of this thread. She took the knitting world and made it speak in a language that is deeply rooted in place. The first pattern that I would like to show you is called Harakoa, which means joy. And Elizabeth states that when she designed this piece, she made it with the intention for you to be able to find some joy in every day of your life. And I think it almost feels like intention is woven into every stitch of this pattern, and I think it is an absolutely beautiful intention. Harakoa is a pullover with a really distinctive and inventive construction. The top of the yoke, both the front and the back, is worked separately and sideways with a cable lace pattern running through it. Then the saddle shoulders are worked, incorporating a star pattern and knitting in both yoke pieces at the same time. It's one of those constructions that sound complex when you describe it, but totally makes sense as you work through it. And the result is a yoke with a depth and dimensionality that is quite unique, I think. The body below is slightly A-line shaped and finishes with a shaped garter stitch hem that gives it a beautiful considered edge. And the sleeves maintain that star pattern all the way down to the garter cuff. This is a sweater that is very intricate, but I imagine it's very worth knitting and probably also very enjoyable to knit. Next up we have a design called Last Frost. This is a top-down seamless yoked tee with short sleeves, and the yoke combines colorwork, cables and lace all in one, which does sound a bit ambitious, but Elizabeth handles the increases in a very smart way because you're working them only in the stockinette sections around the patterning, so the design itself is never disrupted. And the result is a yoke that looks genuinely very extraordinary, I think. It is so rich and layered and full of detail, and it's sitting above a very simple all-over stockinette body. It is a summer knit that's worked in fingering weight yarn, and Elizabeth collaborated with the New Zealand yarn brand Happy Go Knitty on yarn kits for it, which means you can get the exact colors she used if you like. Now, if you've been looking for maybe a bit more of a challenging project, but also one that you can wear all summer, I think you should definitely have a look at Last Frost. And I also want to show you one more of Elizabeth's designs, and it is called Flourish. This is a set and sleeve pullover that's worked from the bottom up, and the construction here is just as thoughtful as everything else in Elizabeth's designs. You cast on at the hem and work a rib before the lace pattern begins on the front, and the back is done in all over stockinette, which means the lace on the front really stands up against it. And the front and the back are separated at the underarms and worked separately up to the shoulders, with a 3-needle bind-off joining the right shoulder and a clever button placket at the left shoulder. So you have this elegant little detail at the neckline that makes getting the sweater on and off easily. Then the sleeves are picked up and a short row sleeve cap is worked before knitting down with decreases to a ribbed cuff. So this is a sweater that definitely requires a bit more attention, but I think this is such a beautiful lace design which looks so intricate and almost like it comes alive in the garment. And Elizabeth suggests knitting it with a fingering weight yarn held together with a silk mohair, which gives it a lovely halo and also some drape. And overall, I think this is a very soft and feminine and lovely design. I find Elizabeth's work very moving because in a global knitting world where sometimes it can feel a bit like designs look the same all throughout the world, Elizabeth has found a niche that feels very unique to her place, her culture, and the way of seeing the world. And I think this is very beautiful. But New Zealand's fiber arts world does not stop at knitting, and I could not talk about contemporary makers of New Zealand without introducing you to Grace Forthefrills. Grace is a crochet designer based in New Zealand who has built a very engaged creative community. Her Ravelry numbers are truly impressive. Her Briar Pocket cardigan has over 14,000 favorites, her Sagebrush tank over 16,000. And these are numbers that most knitting designers can only dream of. She designs with a light, wearable aesthetic. Her pieces feel modern and effortless and the kind of thing you reach for without thinking. And the first pattern I would like to show you is called the Holly Berry Ruffle Sweater. This is a festive top-down raglan pullover with the most beautiful ruffles at the sleeve tops and cuffed sleeves. And I want to address the word festive because Grace herself is very clear that this is not a Christmas-only piece. It would be stunning in any season, and the silhouette with the relaxed body, statement sleeves, clean neckline is genuinely timeless, I think. The ruffles sit at the top of the sleeves, which Grace found to be the sweet spot, flattering and festive without being overwhelming, and the sleeves taper down gradually from there before being cuffed at the wrist. It's worked entirely top down, so you can try it on as you go and adjust both the sleeve and body length to your exact measurements, which for a sweater with this much personality is really important because you want it to sit just right. The pattern comes with a full video tutorial, which is something that Grace does for all of her designs, and she states that it is a suitable project for anyone who has crocheted a sweater before. And the next design of hers that I would like to talk about is the elevation sweater, and I think this is a beautiful example of the power of simplicity. It is a V-neck long-sleeved sweater with a boxy body and tapered sleeves, and the entire texture comes from working half double crochet in the back loop only throughout the body. And that single stitch choice gives the fabric this beautiful and almost woven quality. It's dense and structured, but also has a wonderful drape. The V-neck is worked by making two separate back panels and joining them, which means it opens up naturally and falls off the shoulder in exactly the right way. And the tapered sleeves give the whole silhouette a polish and intention that makes it look far more complex than it actually is. This is the kind of sweater I think would work for everything. You could wear it with jeans, a midi skirt, like high-waisted white trousers, and since it is boxy, it also goes along with many different body types. It also comes with a full video tutorial, and Grace states that this would be a great project for someone who has never crocheted a sweater before. And the next pattern of hers I would like to show you is called the Seascape Scallop. And I think if you ever wanted to make something that looks like you've bought it in a boutique on a summer holiday, this might be it. It is a lightly flared dress or tank top. There is a pattern available for both options, and they are both available for free. And it has the most delicate scallop edging at the hem, tie straps, and what I think is one of the most generous levels of customization I've seen in a pattern in a long time. You can choose tie straps or straight straps. You can have a plain V-neck or a scallop edging at the neckline. You can add a rope belt if you're making the dress, and of course you can choose if you want to make either the dress or the tank top. It's worked in sport weight cotton yarn, which gives it that perfect weight for summer because it's light enough for warm days, but also has enough structure to hold the scallop edging. This is definitely one of the most beautiful crochet pieces for summer that I have come across so far. The next designer I would like to talk about is someone who might be new to you, and her name is Jess Thompson. And she goes by the name of Cnottan. And yes, that is spelled just as confusing as it sounds. And yes, I tried to look up how to pronounce it, but rather unsuccessful. Jess is a New Zealand sock designer, and I have to say her socks are truly extraordinary. She has only created a small number of patterns so far, but every single one is meticulously crafted and comes with accessibility features built in as standard, like low vision formats, screen reader friendly versions, colorblind accessible charts. And there is a thoughtfulness and care in everything she produces that I find very admirable. Her patterns also have this wonderful kind of personality. She describes everything with a warmth and wit that makes you want to cast them on immediately. And the first pattern that I would like to talk about is the Day's Eye socks. And I think these are genuinely so charming. They are simple cuff-down socks with eyelets, and here's the lovely twist. The finishing involves embroidering around those eyelets after knitting, and Jess includes full embroidery instructions within the pattern, so there is no prior experience needed. And the result is this beautiful, delicate summery sock that feels like finding wildflowers in your wardrobe. And then there is the Pohu Te Kawa wreath socks. The Pohu Te Kawa is New Zealand's Christmas tree, and it flowers every summer in a deep red. And in Aotearoa, seeing those flowers means that school's out and everyone is heading to the beach and life is good. Jess has captured all of that in a pair of socks. Flowers are knitted using a combination of dip stitches and stranded colorwork. It's not embroidered, and the construction is quite inventive. It starts with a provisional cast on in the middle of the leg and is worked in both directions. These socks are a love letter to New Zealand, stitched one flower at a time. The yarn that saves a forest. Do you remember the yarn I talked about in the very beginning of the video? The one that is softer than cashmere, warmer than most wools, and completely unique to New Zealand? I think it's time to properly tell that story now. In 1991, a researcher named Fazil Khan was given some possum fur and asked if he could create something with it, because the possum was first introduced to New Zealand in the 1800s through a fur trade with Australia that never truly came to fruition. But since the possum didn't have any natural predators in New Zealand, the population exploded. Today there are an estimated 30 million possums in New Zealand, eating 22,000 tons of native forest every single year and devastating the habitats of native birds. Khan took the fur back to his lab and began experimenting, and within 2 weeks he came up with something truly unique and extraordinary. He blended the possum fur with merino yarn, and what's so special about possum is that the fibers are hollow, which means it traps heat in a very efficient way, similar to polar bear fur. And when he blended it with merino, it became a yarn that is 55% warmer than merino alone, and like I mentioned, also softer than cashmere. It also has a beautiful natural halo, and the main hand knitting yarn brand using this fiber is Cnottan. And if you're interested in knitting with possum merino yarn, I think you should definitely check them out. New Zealand's fiber art story is one of the most layered I have come across in this whole Knitting Around the World series so far. You have the sheep that created this wool nation. You have an ancient Māori textile tradition that tells stories in craft. You have the environmental disaster that led to the experiment and the lucky invention of a very special fiber. And of course you also have the contemporary designers who are putting New Zealand firmly on the global knitting map. I hope this has given you some time to knit, something to think about, and maybe also something to add to your queue. And if you enjoyed this video, I think you're also going to like my video about Australia, which is another wool nation that has surprised me in many unexpected ways. Until next time, happy knitting, take care, bye!